change places with Zoe. Paul, please. Hello everyone, Sunday Adelaja here. Charis Ngoya, welcome. Good evening. I'm going from one program to the other quite fast, huh? Charles Smith, welcome. Omonike, welcome. Neki Okoro, Eric Osadolo, welcome, welcome. Let's go share this link. Let's go share the program. Adeleke Adeniyi, Emi Bobby, Adeleke Bright, Shibuzo, Olukayode, Ekundayo Ufuoma, Hanigoro, Rita Bansi. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Nice to see you. Stella Nuhu. Nice to see all of you. Ide Upwork. Niyo Lushala. Bidemi. Welcome, welcome. We're going to have a session today. TY, welcome. Abim Vincent. Nice to see all of you. Theophilus. Jide Craig. Well, let's go and share the link. Once you have shared the link, we will be ready to start the program with the children. Like I promised you, I'm here with all my children today. Shigo, welcome. Kennedy Festus. All the kids are here today, and Rumpa, welcome. Emmy, Deborah Cole, welcome. Well, let me tell the kids to introduce themselves, and you go ahead and write your questions. If you have some questions or you have some questions as we are discussing, you can go ahead and ask those questions, but you'll be having the opportunity to glean into our family, and our family life and how the children grew up, and maybe some things you would like to know about them that other people might not, that you might not be able to know otherwise. So they will introduce. Hello, everyone. Who starts?
Hey, I can start.
Okay, please.
My name is Perez. I'm Pastor Sunday's oldest and only son. I'm 18. I'm currently in university.
My name is Zoe. I'm the oldest daughter and the middle child, and I am currently in high school.
My name is Pearl. I am the youngest child, and I am 13 years old, and I am also in high school.
Okay, so well, people here are from different countries, from America, from Germany, from England, Belgium, Nigeria, and Canada, just everywhere, Australia, New Zealand, and they want to know. I've been talking to them about children upbringing, and value systems and things like that. What will you say about your family? What will you say about your family? Let's start. What will you say about your family?
Well, I can start. About my family, I'd say that we're not like most of the families. We're all very goal-orientated.
You have to speak louder, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Because you are so far from me, so you might want to move forward when you are talking. You can sit the way you are sitting, but when you are talking, then you move forward.
Yeah, so as I was saying, that I think our family is not similar to most families. First of all, we are Africans living in a very in a country that's full of white people. So right away, we already knew that we were different, at least in that aspect. And then the fact that our parents were both huge pastors, that they always had lots of people relying on them, that they were always busy. We as kids, we knew right away that we were special, that we weren't just like any other family. And in our family, as I was mentioned earlier, that we are very goal-orientated, that we know why we're here on this earth, we know what we're doing, we know where we're heading, we know, and this is all because our parents have given us that value system from when we were born, when we were growing up, that they didn't leave the education purely to the schools, but whenever they had time with us at home, they would try to impart their knowledge into us. And because of that, just our family is very unique and very spectacular.
Okay, Zoe, what would you say about the family?
Like Paris here said, we pastors' kids, we knew how to compose ourselves and to behave because we knew that there were people looking up to our family. So we always had that, and we always tried to be and do our best. And like he also said, we are black people living in a country that is mostly predominant with white people, and that taught us right away that we are not what people say we are. We are who we know we are. We are who God says we are.
Yeah, talk. Just look here when you're talking.
We are who God says we are, and we are who we're taught we are, and not what people around us say we are, or not what they say, or not what they think of us. Doesn't matter. So we're not easily affected by other people's opinions. And every evening when we were younger, our father would sit us down and teach us morals. We'd read a whole page, a whole website page, a whole article about a moral, and Dad would explain everything, every paragraph, every sentence, answer our questions, and then after that, we would tell Dad what we learned personally and how we could apply it to our lives. We also attended a few retreats so we could learn more about
Retreat, like you mean HMT. That's what the foreigners call it, HMT, right?
HMT. And we also attended youth retreats where we learned how to be diligent, and we were put under a lot of work, but it was very interesting to learn and very helpful for our lives.
Okay, what would you say, Pro, about your family?
Well, I think that I was very blessed to be born into this family, and
Louder.
I think that I was very blessed to be born into this family, and that you can feel this every day. We've been able to go to an amazing church and go to a Christian school and everything, but also our parents, despite the fact that they have lots of stress in their jobs, they pay lots of attention to us and teach us many things. And I think that my parents have really helped with my walk with Christ. There's lots of questions I've had in life, lots of doubts, but we can always talk to our parents and resolve them. And I think it's really important how our parents would often urge us to ask questions. And since our parents are those who teach many people, even when we're not directly talking to them, we can still come to an HMT or to a service and listen to what things God can say through them. So our parents told us not to miss any opportunities, and we can start practicing that now.
Okay, so how is your day like? Who wants to talk about that? How is your day like? Not every day.
Yeah, I can talk about it. Where when I was in high school, I had a much more like scheduled day rather than I am.
No, we're talking of when you were in school, when you were young.
All right. So when I was young, of course, we'd wake up at around 6:30, get ready for school. Then we'd have our school process from 8:30 to 3, and then after that, we'd usually have a sports practice to attend, either swimming or basketball or soccer for me, or we would have a musical instrument class to attend where it was piano mostly. So after that, after all those lessons, we'd only get home around 6, 7, we'd eat, and then we'd start getting...
So that means you leave home, you wake up from 6 o'clock in the morning. From 6 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock in the evening, 7 o'clock in the evening, you are busy in school and other extracurricular activity.
Yes.
Okay, so you have a busy schedule on a daily basis.
Yes. After school, we had something. It'd be almost a non-regular occurrence that if we get to go home straight away after school, because maybe even if we don't have an extracurricular, We'd go to church to spend it with our parents, see what they were doing. So every day after church, after school, we'd be doing something. So we'd be out of the house around 12 hours, 13 hours every day. No, about 10 hours every day being out of the house, either in school or either in any physical activity or musical activity. So we were always learning. Our parents tried for us to learn how to interact with the world in many different aspects, not only through education, but through music and sports as well. And then after that, we'd come home, we'd eat, then we'd go straight to homework.
And this would be around what time in the evening?
Yeah, we'd get home around 6:30, 7, eat for maybe half an hour. So we'd start homework around 7:30, 8. And our parents always taught us to work before you play. So we'd usually do our homework maybe starting at 8 until 9:30, because we'd always try to catch a program that started at 9:30 on TV. It was a Christian program, and we'd only get to do it if we finished our homework. So our incentive after school, after our physical activity, was to finish our homework as thoroughly and as quickly as we could so that we could have our entertainment afterwards. Because we were taught from an early age that you don't get to eat if you don't work, and that whole mentality spread over to the homework area. So we had to do our homework before we got to rest, before we got to play with any of our toys, before we got to watch TV. First thing we did after eating was our homework.
Okay. Zoe, what was your schedule like?
Well, nowadays,
Not nowadays, just generally. What you could remember. And nowadays too.
wake up at 6 o'clock and dress, eat, get out of the house, and get to school on time. Usually earlier. We usually get earlier, not on time. After school, we usually go to sports, springboard diving, and we go to sports like 4 times a week earlier. Then after that, when I went to middle school, started going to school sports like basketball and soccer and track. So every day was full, because on Saturdays we'd also go in the morning to springboard diving. And nowadays I still go to springboard diving, but I go to middle school as well. And on Saturdays I volunteer at orphanage, and I go to youth group.
And so you're not telling us when you go out of the house and when you come back?
Springboard diving usually come back at 6 or 7, depending on
No, when do you go out and when do you get back home? Just in the average, it doesn't have to be exact, just approximately.
I always leave the house at 6.
Okay. And get back?
Leave the house at 6.
I always wake up at 6 o'clock, leave the house at 7:30, and school ends at 3. And so if I go to springboard diving, come back at like 6 or 7. If I go to middle school, I come back at 5 o'clock. And on Saturdays, I leave at 1 o'clock, and I come back by 8 o'clock.
Then that's when you come back midweek, that's after school, that's when you actually do your homework.
Yeah, after my extracurricular activities, that's when I do my homework.
Okay.
Yes, from when I started going to school, every working day you wake up at 6, or if maybe you didn't do any homework, didn't finish your homework, the other day you wake up at 5, but usually I wake up at 5:55 to 6, so I can have a head start in waking up and getting ready. And in the morning we have to make snacks to take to school with ourselves, to take with us to school, and pack our stuff, though it's wiser to do that the night before. And then we go out at 7:30 or 7:20, and then we arrive at school, usually before it starts, and we stay there until 3 when it ends. We have extracurricular activities, but sometimes there's days when you don't have them, but you still might have studying for musical instruments, or you have to wait for your siblings that might be doing in school sports. which is good for me. Which was good for me too because I got to do my homework, and it was always good to have more time to do your homework, and especially to do work ahead because we have kind of a busy week. But yeah, if you stayed after school, then you'd come back at like 5 or 6, and after sports we come back after springboard diving we come back at about 7:30. So then from there you do your homework, and then we pray at about 10 or 11, and after that, if we've done all of our homework, then we go to sleep.
Okay, now somebody's asking here that you should describe your parents. Who are your parents to you? Who is your mom to you? Who is your dad to you? And how will you describe them to them who are watching you, to the outside world?
Okay. Well, it's almost like I'm a bit older now, so it's almost like I see my parents in like two different perspectives. The one where I was young and I didn't know much, and the one now that I've gone off to university and I've got a whole different perspective of life. So when I was still at home with my parents all the time, my parents seemed more just like normal parents, that they would always be taking care of us, they'd be providing us with food, they'd be disciplining us, and like as a kid you wouldn't really understand like why are my parents so special? Why are so many people like why do they love our parents so much? So for you, your parents are just your parents, that they're not anyone that is that unique. But because as kids you didn't understand that they are out here doing the Lord's work, that they're saving people, that they're helping people come out of different crises. So for me personally, I just seemed like it was a normal father-son or mother-son relationship. I didn't understand the full grasp of it. But then when I grew up, when I was able to leave to go to university, I started seeing my parents in a much better light. I started seeing how many things they were juggling, how they were juggling us as kids, how they were juggling church, how they were juggling all the different ministries, how they were always traveling, always being able to deal with problems in different countries, with different people. I was able to see how they multitasked all that, and it was just amazing. I was able to see how they provided for us. There was always food on the table. There was always clothes to wear. We always had heat in our houses. All the bills were paid, and things that I wouldn't think about when I was a kid. I just started to just be in awe of my parents, of how well they did, you could almost say, their jobs, and how the pursuit of excellence. And then being in university, I was able to see what they implanted in me. I was able to see that I was able to focus more, to discipline more, and I'd be thinking, wait, why am I even doing this? And then I just like be remembering like my parents' voices in my head, like as I was saying earlier, that you should work before you eat, you should be focused.
Values.
And all these values that were taught to me as a kid, that I was just thinking, oh, they're just talking, they're just disciplining me, that I didn't understand the value and concept of. As I grew older, I was able to go to university, I was able to see the true scope of how great my parents were.
How would you describe your parents? That's what that's asking.
To me, my parents are very busy people, obviously. They're people who have come a really long, far way in life, very respectable people, admirable. And all of the work that they do, the reason they're so busy, it's all for God. Their lives seem to be dedicated to God, and they still have enough time to take care of us and teach us and raise us. And for example, our mom, we see her, and our dad, we see them on a weekly basis, but we can see that they're always working, always coming from somewhere, always going somewhere. And even when they're at home, they're listening and planning ahead for the future. And I look up to my parents, obviously, because I want those are my role models for life and how dedicated I want to be to God. My dad is a very wise person to me, so I can ask him questions, and so is my mom. So I'm very grateful to have two great adults in my life who are at home that I can ask questions, because it's easier to approach than like teachers or anything. questions about life. And they can help me because they actually care about me.
Well, some of you don't know that you could actually share this video. So if you want, you can look under the video and share and press the share button. Under the video, you'll see a button there. So you feel free to share the video. Go ahead and copy and share the video. Then you'll be able to have it on your timeline. Okay, so Paul, your time.
Yeah. As for my parents, I think that my view of them has changed a lot over time. And I think that when I was younger, when I looked at them, I looked at them more in regards to like what they did apparently for me. Like depending on how many candies they allowed me to eat today or something like that. I think that I took lots of things for granted, like about how they would always feed me and how they would always go through so much trouble to clothe me and for that they had to provide for this big house, and I would just be like glad that they allowed me to eat a second plate of borscht or something. But right now I'm kind of beginning to think of them a lot differently. I think that they're very good role models, first and foremost, and that's not only because of all the testimonies in the church, but also just because on a daily basis you can just see them doing really wise and smart things, like when daddy is doing anything, even in his free times, he's always listening to like educational videos or documentaries and stuff, and mom does the same. Even though she's a pastor, she listens to everything from motivational speeches to court cases and orthodox priest speeches, and I can even learn sometimes many things from just listening in on what they're listening to. So I think that it's a very wise thing to do, to even in your free time self-educate yourself. And I know that they've come a really long way, and it was really hard, and I am very grateful to them for all that they've done. And I also think that because of all the things that they've taught us, that gives me a lot of motivation to do my best, because it's a lot easy to be lazier and just to...
They're asking for volume. That you should
It's a
speak
lot
louder.
easier to be lazy and to just do everything half-heartedly, but like when I see how much my parents have done in the name of God, and just because they had discipline, that makes me think that even when I'm doing my homework or stretching for sport, I should do everything as unto the Lord, and that I should, since my parents are paying for this and all, I should give my very best. So I think that my parents have been very important mentors in my life.
Okay, now there is someone here that asks so many questions. This is Esther Kuganja from, I think, England or Ireland. For the first question is, I want you to remember all the questions so that you could take on any of the questions that you want, or if you want, you could address each of the questions as well. So the questions are: one, what are the qualities you like about your parents? That one. Two, what are your one-to-one sessions with your parents like? Your one-to-one session, one-on-one session, and how frequent were they or are they? What do you think makes you different from other children? What do you want to become in life? How do you think about your dad going back to Nigeria? What are your comments about your dad's long-standing court case? What advice can you give to your age mates out there? So there are so many of them. Do you want me to ask them one by one? How do you prefer it?
Do you want to answer all of them, or do you want to answer some?
Is it one by one, or just you pick anyone?
Yeah,
Anyone?
pick
You can pick
whichever
anyone.
one.
Okay. So you remember what you want to pick, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah. Okay. Let's just start.
I'll
You
start if anything. Well, let's see. Starting with the first question about which qualities I love most in my parents. For my dad, I love that he's developed his mind so much that his IQ is just almost out of this world. I like that he was able to like work on himself so consistently and have such huge faith in the world that was able in God that was able to bring him as far as he is today. And also like how much he loves people, like honestly with a passion, that he's able to so many people and help so many people. He has a huge heart and he's able to listen to God. I think that's very impressive. And from my mom, I love that just how much she cares about us as children, that she always wants the best of us for us, even though we don't see it as kids. As now, recently she was telling us that she helped us to, she put us to do diving and swimming as children, so because she had an imposition that we would be tall when we grew up and that swimming is good for the back. And just the fact that she was able to anticipate that move, to think so far ahead, I think it's just wonderful how much she cares. And just those, what I love the most, which qualities I love the most from my parents. A different question was about what I think about my dad going to Nigeria. I actually think I almost think it's inevitable because Nigeria is always on his heart, it's always on his mind. And even though us as children, we haven't been to Nigeria too much, I haven't been there personally since 2010, and I almost don't feel that connection as much as my dad does as to his homeland. So I think it's just like almost fate that my dad has to return to Nigeria with his goals, that he has to go back, he has to make it a better place, because if Nigeria was able to produce at least one person like my dad, there definitely has to be a lot more people like him out there. They're just waiting to be rescued, almost just waiting for an opportunity. And I'm just very glad that my dad will be able to, by God's grace, to go there and be able to help these people. And then the question relating to the court case, I think that it's been going on for so long that it almost feels like everyday life at this point, where, remember in the beginning where it was, since we were younger, we didn't understand all the details. We were like, oh, what's happening? Why is dad like always going out? Is he okay? We're always worried. But now we've seen that our dad is still fine, that he even gets to spend more time in the house. He gets to spend more time with us. And there, as the saying goes, there's always a blessing in disguise. And the blessing is that, because before then, he always used to travel because his services were required across the globe. But since he's limited to Ukraine, we just, as a family, we've been able to spend more time together, spend more time in, like, during the holidays, during people's birthdays. And so people may think it's awful that, oh, our dad is in a court case, that we don't get to see him, but actually it's almost opposite. We get to see him much more. And by God's grace, this court case will end soon, that dad will be able to go back to Nigeria, where you could say he belongs, and he'll be able to continue fulfilling the Lord's work.
Okay, about my one-on-one sessions with my parents. With my dad, usually whenever I see him, I ask him questions about...
No, that's not the one. They're talking about one-on-one session when we were doing when we were doing the values development session.
In the evenings, like after we had time to do our homework most of the time, he'd call us all three of us, to sit next to him, around him, and he'd pull up a website where they teach a moral, a lesson, a whole article about it.
Value systems.
Value systems. And he'd use different websites also. And they always coincided. And we'd read the article together, like you paragraph by paragraph usually. And after we finished reading the article, Dad asked us if like what we understood, what we said, and we'd tell him. And then if we didn't get something correct, like or didn't get the right point, he'd explain to us, and he'd make us say it again until we understood it. and until we got it right. And we had to say what we got from the article and what we got for ourselves personally, and how we could apply it to our everyday lives. We had to give examples also. And that would happen on weekdays and on weekends. And it went on for a few years. And we'd have them like every week.
Any other question you want to address? It could be the same thing that.
Or
Yeah.
should you say the questions again?
You could still come back to it. Let's Paul say what she wants to say first.
So about the traits of my parents that I like the most. About Daddy, I like how he's gregarious and outgoing. I really like that in people, and I think it's a good example. And I think it's really helped him in his ministry. And I like how he's easy to talk to and cheerful and understanding. And also I like how he's firm in his belief, and like he has a passion for God, and but even despite that, he doesn't let his emotions like dictate all of his actions. And even though he has so much on his hands, he always thinks everything out and always relies on God. And I also like how he isn't like scared to admit his own faults. He isn't like prideful or anything. He's open to discussion and always open to improve and to learn. And that would just like not be what you expect from a public figure and such a renowned pastor like Daddy, but he really puts others before himself, and he really is focused on getting closer to God, and I think he is really a great example. And I like Mom because she is very responsible. She is good at organizing things, and that's not something that I'm good at, and so I think she's a very good example. And she always tries to help everyone. She like encourages us to ask questions, and I think that's a very good thing to do. She tries to bring out the best of us, and she always takes care of us and still gives us all types of surprises and rewards and stuff. So I think that she's a very caring person and still very calm and composed despite all that she has to do, and that I should try to be more like her.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to those questions. Maybe there might be some more questions that there might be some. Is there? Do you want me to repeat the questions?
I can answer another question.
Okay.
So yeah, the one-on-one.
Let me just repeat them first before you answer, just in case somebody will remember. It says, what are the qualities you like about your parents? How was the one-on-one session? One-on-one session. That is it. The value session. What do you think makes you different from other children? What do you want to become in life? How do you think about your dad going to Nigeria? What are your comments about your dad's court case? What advice will you give to your mates out there?
So about the one-on-one sessions.
Louder, because people don't.
About the one-on-one sessions, it's like my brother and sister said that Daddy would call us to sit down with him, whether it would be in the VIP room or in his room or the living room. He would call us, and we'd read an article online, or maybe something that he wrote.
Or maybe it's video.
Yeah, I'll talk about that too. And I think, and we'd read it, and and person would read a paragraph and we discuss it, and I think, and each one of them was about a very distinct topic, and it would be really fleshed out, and they were very educational. And one that we discussed was like about the state of the world, like the ideology. The article called it a whatever world, because people started to, because before everyone was like looking for something. When Paul went to evangelize to people, they were already looking for the truth, and when they saw what he could do, then they were like, oh, we found it. But then later, after people decided that God was definitely not real and just tried to explain everything through science, then people kind of lost that. And when everything couldn't be explained through science, and people were able to become more and more comfortable, everybody just began to say whatever, and it became a whatever world. And I think we can really see this reflected in our world, because like so many people live and they don't even think of living for a purpose. They just think of living for the spur of the moment, just to be hedonistic, or maybe just to be stoic, just to live and to die. And that's just what they think that they had the fortune of being born for. And that article like really impacted me, and I'm very grateful that we were able to cover that. And sometimes we'd read, like this has happened more recently, but sometimes we'd watch a video that anyone could have made, or sometimes we'd read an article by Daddy, and we'd also read the comments too, and we tried to evaluate the general response and think of why people responded like that. We talk about if we agreed with Dad and if we disagreed, though like we almost always agreed, and like the points that Daddy made, which was really good to understand what was being said in the article. Like I remember one video we watched where a man was just having what I could only call a meltdown. He was just screaming about how Africa was such a horrible place and the meltdown, and then he would say, what, you say Egypt is a successful country? But no, Egypt is not Africa. And he would just be repeating these things. And so we had a very good discussion about that, even though it was just a person being emotional, in my opinion, and not directing his emotions to the right thing. I think that Daddy takes opportunities just like he told us to, and that goes together with what you asked about how I feel about Daddy going to Nigeria. I think that it's a very good thing, and I'm very happy for him, because I know that Daddy really wants to do more for Nigeria, and I know that he's really needed in Nigeria, and that he's been here.
You need higher volume. Cannot hear Pearl talk at all. We can't hear what she's saying. So move forward and talk louder.
Okay, so I know that Daddy wants to do more for Nigeria.
Louder voice.
I know that Daddy wants to do more for Nigeria, and since he's been here for a long time, I think he really does deserve to go where he wants. And also, I think that Nigeria has a lot of potential. It has lots of resources, a big population for work, and just a very impressive history, a very vibrant culture, and all these factors can be used together to create a really successful country, even more successful than what is considered successful today. So I think that if Daddy goes there, he can really help trigger these things. But I don't think it will be only Daddy. I think that many Nigerians will also rise up to join him, because I think that Nigeria really is an amazing country, and that they're going through hard times, but every country has gone through hard times, and that if Nigeria has endured for such a long time, that they definitely won't fail. So I think that it's a good choice that Daddy is making to go there, and I bless him.
Okay. Any other question that you might be interested in? Because there are some of them that are not yet answered yet.
I can say something to my age mates out there. So I'm 13 right now. I'm in the 9th grade, and I just want to say
You
that
still have a lot of time, so
I just want to say that in terms of your work, like your schoolwork or any extracurricular activities you have, like you might think that there's really no point to trying your best, even if it says in the Bible that do everything as unto the Lord. Maybe you just like don't really feel God's presence, or you think that really that's not a reason. But I think that you should really try your best, because people tried hard to give you the chance to get an education, and there's many people that can't, and that if you work hard in the future, it will really pay you off. Because if you slack off, even while you're still in school, you'll feel unpleasant, and it will just like catch up to you. But if you keep trying your best, I think you'll be rewarded in the end, and not only in heaven, but on the earthly, during our earthly life too. So I think you shouldn't get too distracted by everything that's in the world, that you should use the internet in moderation and watch TV in moderation and have your priorities straight. Like really try hard to have your priorities straight, because it's like very hard to live a righteous life if you're putting like your favorite TV show or your favorite character from a novel above God, above school, above your family. So please just keep on hoping and keep on pushing. God has never left you.
Okay. And relating to the same question that Pro just answered, I'm 18 right now, and I just started university this year. Most 18-year-olds are either just starting university in September, or they're about to start next year. So during this age, I'd say try to figure out yourself more, so that you'll know what you want to do with your future. Now is a good time, because lots of people go into college with an undeclared major, or lots of other people go to college with the wrong major. So now is a very good time to really understand who you are and what you want to do with your life. And during this time, while you'll be in university or in your senior year of high school, you'll be very busy with lots of different things. But I'd say it's still very important to build relationships and get connections from very lots of different outlets, because you never know what the future is going to present you with. And I think that's another reason why our parents, as kids, they would let us grow in lots of different areas, in education, in sports, in music, so that we'd be able to connect with people from lots of different places. But during this whole time, it's very important to keep on having a strong spiritual life. You may just almost forget or just get too busy for spending time with God. That is still should be your number one priority, because He'll be the one that will be always there for you. He'll be the one that will be providing you with these opportunities. So even though you'll be either preparing for school, preparing for your exams, your priority should still be your relationship with Christ, and that should be over anything. And there was another question of who you want to become in life. I want to become a lawyer. I'm studying law right now. And in the end goal, let's say, would be to create a successful law firm, to be a founder in it, to be able to provide Christian values through law.
To people of my age who are in high school, I want to say to focus at school, because during the school years there are obviously many distractions and many things that seem more interesting and could pull you away. But there are things that you can't understand now that you'll only understand later, but you won't be able to turn back time to fix your past mistakes. So do your best now and focus now, even against all your urges and against all your wants and all the invitations and all the temptations and distractions. Just focus on school and do it for your future self, because your future self and your future depends on who you are now, and you will get a reward. There is no maybe. And keep your relationship with God strong now, and don't keep putting it off till later, because God, you don't know how long you're going to stay in this world, and God put you here to fulfill His purpose, His mission, and the only reason you're alive is because of Him, and you owe your whole life to Him. So keep Him first at all things.
What do you want to become? They're asking. What do you want to become? What do you want to do with your life?
I want to become a singer, and if I can, I want to become an actress, and I want to study psychology.
Okay, is there a purpose in that, not just a profession?
Why?
I want to study psychology so that I can understand people and connect with people, because if I'm going to become a singer, I want to reach out to people even if I can't see them personally, meet them personally. And I want to get to know people in a different way than I would just get to know people by socializing with them. I like to know psychologically. I want to know how different kinds of people that they are and effective ways of moving them and getting to them.
Okay, and what is the reason why you want to get to people through singing, relating with people? What is the goal? Is the goal to bring them to God or to change the world, or what is your purpose in life in that sense?
The reason I want to do singing is because I feel moved by God the most during praise and worship. And through my singing, I want to spread God's love and enforce God's will. I want to encourage people to live life right, because this is a very hard world we're living in now. It's very hard to stay virtuous and righteous. And I want my songs to be an encouragement to people.
Same with acting?
Yes.
For the same purpose?
Yes.
Okay. Carl, what do you want to do with your life? That's what they would like to know. You need to move forward so that they could hear you, but they always have a challenge with that.
I want to become a writer. I want to write fiction, but I also want to write kind of books that share my thoughts on any world issues, and books that, try and answer the questions that Christians encounter in this world, because there are really many questions that you encounter in this world, and so many things that it seems that it's hard to answer. And also I want to write a book about the Bible eventually, I think, because there's so many different interpretations of it and so many controversial things in it too. And it's just a really exciting thing for me. I really like to read the Bible, and I really like to study the Bible. I think it's just amazing how much God can tell you through just one little verse. And I also just want to kind of maybe unite Christians through maybe my books, because there's lots of conflicts between not only Christians and atheists and Christians and people of other religions, but also in the Christian church. And I think we should just, turn to the scriptures and see what God has to say. I think that's a very important thing that you should do in life. Also, I like learning words, and I like making up stories, and I like writing in general. And also, I think I also need help with my focusing, because I'm quite bad at focusing and I space out a lot. But when you're writing a book, you have to be focused and you have to stay on point, or else your book will be kind of incoherent and kind of a mess. So I think that will not only help me pursue my passion, but also help me to develop more. So I think that's really something that God gave me. And also, I have many interests like history and politics and stuff, and I think that there's many things wrong in the current world, and I can probably express that through my writing and stuff. But I also want to become better at speaking and all of that because I want to express my opinion sometimes not only through writing, and I want to make my opinion loud and clear. And I also want to argue for God because I feel like his image is really, really twisted, not only by the world, but just like today, sometimes we like to ignore God, and I really just want to fight for him. So when I was younger, I was told I would become a lawyer, and I don't know if I'm all that interested in law, but I am interested in politics, and I do like to argue. So like if that just happens to merge together, then I'd be excited to do something related to those two.
And someone is asking, how many books have you written?
I've written 13, and I have like a lot more in progress.
13 books. 13 books, that's what they're asking.
Yeah, I started writing just short stories when I was 7, when I was bored, and so I kind of made them into a book for each 2 months of the year, and that's just how my story writing started.
Okay, and you have many more in progress, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Someone is asking here, Shigo, Teres, and the kids, do you realize that your dad is a genius, and what a privilege it is, what a privileged position you have, and does it bring any responsibility on you that you have such a dad that is so full of wisdom, and does it put a demand on you?
Well, I had mentioned earlier that one of my favorite things about my dad was his intelligence and how far he had worked to get it. And I mentioned earlier that I only started to realize it when I left, because there's that saying that you don't know what you have until it's gone. And that's a very realistic saying, because being here, I was able to have a gap year between the time I graduated high school and I went to university. And during that time, I was able to spend a lot more time with my dad. I was able to follow him around, to shadow him, to see what his schedule looked like. Because before, I always thought I was busy with school, with academics, with athletics life. So during that gap year, I was able to really see how my dad thought, how he viewed the world, and it was really insightful. Of course, I still don't know everything about my dad. I don't have the mental capacity to know everything that he knows, but I have improved dramatically since the time when I was smaller. And it doesn't really put demand on us, but it does give you like a push, a challenge almost. It's not like you're chasing a legacy, but it's something that like keeps you like uplifted. That if you're feeling like motivation, you're like, oh, look at my parents. Or if you're feeling down, you're like, look at what my parents or my dad or my mom have gone through. So it's not more of a pressure, oh, I have to be great or else I'll be like a failure in my parents' eyes. It's more of the opposite, that if my parents can do it, why couldn't I?
I feel a lot the same way. Of course, I realize what a privilege it is to have the parents that I have, and I always thank God that I have this family. And I feel lucky that I can ask my parents questions on life. And if I was in another family and if I had different parents, I couldn't ask them the same questions and expect or receive such an answer that is true, based off experience and wise. So I'm glad I can come to my parents and ask them questions, and I can also listen to what they teach. And they usually, on our one-to-one sessions, they teach us the values of life, but they also teach us like the most important things in life. Before parents went off to university, we all had a one-to-one, and he taught us some things, mostly for parents, but they're for all of us, about life. And I'm really happy because most kids, when they go out into the world, they don't know this stuff before they go out into the world. And it gives us It's every day we live in a life that came from hard work. And so we know what hard work can bring, and we know what can happen, what we can make out of our lives, and how much God can work in our lives, and how much God can bless, and how faithful God is, and how important He is. So that is how I'm affected by my parents.
No, they're saying, what about do you feel any pressure that your parents are genius or your dad is a genius, and do you feel any pressure in that sense?
I don't feel as much pressure as I do like desire to want to be as great as them. At least a little bit as great as them. To surpass them would be a great pressure, but just the desire to be
As good as them.
as good as they, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I always knew that my father was really remarkable and incredible, but I think I always looked at him more of a very, very smart, but also like close to me, like friend. So like, and now that you're saying, do you know that your father is a genius? I'm a bit surprised because like I never just like have used that term to describe him in my mind. So I guess that the answer to that question would be no. Though I guess logically, if you think about it, he is a genius, but I don't always think logically. So, but when I was younger, I kind of felt that because of my parents, I was overprotected and stuff, and that they were like going too far. But I think that when I was younger, I was over exaggerating about like all that my parents were doing. And I didn't realize that for each time that they didn't let me go outside by myself, they would feed me and take me and let me watch TV for a long time and buy me new pajamas and stuff. And I think that I was really thinking more about myself than anyone else. And no, I don't really feel much pressure, but I really feel as if I should really do my best and that I should really succeed because like I have everything laid out at my hands and like I'm here, but my parents became so great from like virtually nothing, and not even virtually from nothing. From they got a scholarship, and that's how they got here. But before that, Daddy lived in a village by himself after his grandmother died, and my mom lived in a house with two other families. It's just like amazing that they were able to get all the way to here, and it would be just kind of funny if I couldn't get at least a little high. I mean, if I couldn't be at least a little bit successful, especially after all that my parents have taught me. And like also, I think that since we're followers of God, I think that also more important than being in this world is getting closer to God and using the talents that God has given us to multiply, just as the parable of the talents told us. So I think that I should really try my best. So I think that there are standards, but I don't feel pressured by them. I just feel that it's a necessity, and I'm excited for it.
Okay. All right. I think you've not answered all the questions. You can remember any other point there that is not being addressed? Okay, we'll still be here tomorrow. We'll still be here tomorrow, even though there are so many questions here. See some of the questions here. So some of these people say their children are watching with them.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'd like children. I'd like to, if I became a political activist, for example, I'd like to volunteer.
Wait. Yeah.
I'd like work
working with children, so cool.
Sorry?
I,
If you
I
become
like
political activist?
I like working with children, so that's cool. Like, if I became a political activist too, I would love to help lots of children in lots of different countries, because children are our future, and they're cute.
Okay. Anything you want to share meanwhile while I'm looking for the questions they are writing?
Anything that
Any one of you.
that you should probably write down the things that you learn and try to apply them in your daily life. Like, if we bring up any good points here, then you should write them down and try and read them over so that you don't forget about them. And like when you're planning something, I think like sometimes it's hard to make schedules to the very minute, but you should probably write down what you want to do, and that will make it easier to remember and easier to prioritize, because you'll know it's important and you'll be able to check them off your to-do list, and that's fun to do. And I think that you should study the Bible, and I think that it sounds boring, but it's actually really great. So you should like read the scripture or the verse or just the whole book maybe, and you should see what you can observe on it just by reading it. What is strange about it? Does anything repeat? And what why was it written? When was it written? And what's the context of it? And then you should try to interpret. You can use the Bible commentary, Bible Gateway, and Bible.org and BibleHub.com are just great sites, and we're really blessed to have them. And they'll really help you interpret things, even when in the Old Testament, like when it gets like really gruesome and it sounds contradictory to like the 10 Commandments that say not to kill. Like there's really good explanations, and it will really get to the gears of your mind spinning. And then you should try to apply it. So you should like wherever it says, you, my brothers, do this, try to put I, and try to put I, and try to put I. And then you'll see that being a Christian isn't really as easy as, singing songs sometimes, but you have to get closer to God too. And like, especially if you write it down, it will help and inspire you and, give you a sense of direction in life. So I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah, there's questions here from the people here. How your dad corrected you, and how do your parents correct you or punish you, and how did you respond to the punishment from your parent?
Well, as kids, the classic punishment was just a spanking, where for disciplinary reasons. So I'd say to about age 11 or 12, the common punishment would just be a spanking. After that, when we'd be more older, we'd understand like why what we were doing is wrong, and why. It'd be either just being talked to, scolded, or being grounded. So like no television for a week, no like games for a week, no sports for a week. And then I'd say the punishments would end maybe around when I was maybe 16, 17, when I was already old enough to just not need to be punished. So it'd be just like if I did something wrong, I'd just be talked to, be scolded, but no like physical punishments. And when I was younger, the spankings, when I was younger, they didn't get to me as much as the groundings did, at least me personally. Those were more effective, I believe. Just because I was older, I understood like what I was missing. Because as a kid, you don't know as much as you do when you're older. So the groundings, they were more effective. That's where, like, especially since it was during the rebellious stage of being a teenager. So those were the most difficult to cope with. But in the end, I was able to deal with them. I was able to learn from them. And yeah.
Yeah, I want to use this opportunity tell people who are watching that you should feel free to share the video. The share button is under the video, so please go ahead under the video and press the share button. So feel free to share the message. And I also want to remind you that tomorrow evening at the same time, we'll be back a little bit earlier tomorrow evening. We'll be back, all of us, and answering your questions as well. So we'll be with you tomorrow evening as well. So,
Like Paris said, it gets spanked when we're younger and sent to the corner. And I didn't understand them at all when I was younger. I didn't understand the purpose. I mean, they told us it was so that we won't do it again, but I didn't understand how it was supposed to work. And later, as I started thinking and growing more, I started to understand. But during my teenage years, I'm still a teenager, so during my early teenage years, during my preteen years, adolescence, I started understanding and appreciating punishments, because if I had a problem that I was not doing something wrong, then my parents would punish me, but they would actually take whatever the steps they needed to take to help me through the problem, to help me stop doing the sin and stop doing this wrong thing. And I was grateful to them for helping me to become better, because I couldn't do it alone if I kept on doing the same sin, so I obviously needed assistance. And so with the punishments, the parents helped me to stop and change my ways. And that's why I appreciate punishments now.
okay.
The punishment that we usually get from our parents, like when we were younger, we got spankings, and we'd also stand on our knees and put our hands in the air for an extended amount of time, so like your limbs would get sore. And yeah, when I was younger, I had a very, 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 very negative response to these punishments. I would think that my parents were extremely strict, and I'd get really, really angry at them, and that's caused some problems later. But like at some point, I kind of understood. Like I kind of switched over from that to kind of understanding why I was getting punished, because I think that being punished here by our parents is a lot better than suffering in hell. And and like really, if I'm punished now, then I really don't lose anything. Like, okay, maybe my hands or my bottom hurts a bit, but like you brought this upon yourself first of all. And like I think that sometimes or our parents like scolded us even when they wouldn't have like evidence of if we did something wrong, or like if they they misunderstood it. But like then later they started asking us if like are we too strict, and if we ever like done anything that was unfair or unreasonable. And like recently we started talking more, and like sometimes like recently, more than punishing you, they like sit you down and talk to you like why this is wrong, and why you're like disrespecting them with and disrespecting God with your disobedience and all of that. And that just makes things a lot clearer. And so like my reaction to punishment is a lot better now, a lot less emotional. And like I think that my parents are actually a lot really merciful, because like they still let me have lots of fun, and like I still need to discipline myself more and more. And if my parents were truly like the strictest in the world, then they would probably punish me a lot more, I think. So I'm grateful to them, and I'm grateful to God for giving me such perceptive parents.
Okay. Another question they were asking is about your teenage years and as teenagers, preteen teenagers. How did you deal with the changes and the challenges, and how did you pass through that? Is the question. You need to sit up, please.
Yeah. I'm not sure which challenges they're referring to. They're just referring to like rebellious teenage years.
Yeah, yeah.
If that's the case, since I was the firstborn, I didn't have like any elder sibling to go through it, so I could see what they were doing. So my rebellious, it wouldn't be like any like shouting at my parents or screaming at my parents, but it'd be more like subtle, like I don't know, just because you don't want to raise the like we weren't raised to just disrespect our parents that easily. So my mom would always say that the way that I'd be like rebellious would be not to do things reluctantly. Where if she would tell me to do something I didn't like, that I would always have like a scowl on my face, that I'd be like grumpy the rest of the day. So she said that I wasn't respecting her um, by being reluctant to do the deed. But overall, the rebellious stage, it wasn't.
We didn't have challenge, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't as dramatic really between me and my parents. Um, that it must be just because I was raised to respect my parents. So there were no real big, I guess, no big challenge, disciplinary challenges for me. Just, yeah, I was a good child.
Um, well, I don't think I had too much of a change towards the way I act towards people. It was mostly like inner changes, inner challenges, because everything that I've learned has been like challenged, and it was harder to like come to God, because for some reason I'd come to Him as a last resort when it's supposed to be the other way around. And every time I'd come to Him, things would be better and easier. But I'd always try to figure things out on myself, because that's the way it always has been, and I could like figure things out. Things weren't as hard. But I had to come to God for most things, and I had to come to other people for help. And usually, like I said, I do things alone. So I had to learn to open up to people, to my parents, and to friends at school, and to God. And I think that is the thing that happened most, the
That
biggest
helped you
change.
to cope with the teenage years.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm 13, so I just became a literal teenager this year. But like, starting from the end of elementary school and all through my middle school years, I think I went through some dramatic changes, and my parents really helped me through that. And even though they were they took many disciplinary measures that really helped me, and my grades are a lot better now. So ever since I was young, I'd be always very emotional, and I threw lots of tantrums, and I would just like get angry easily and cry easily and all of that. So I had good grades, but like still I acted very spoiled. And when I was in 5th grade, well, starting in 4th grade actually, but in 5th grade, I became really rebellious and kind of decided to like think about entertaining myself above everything else. So like that caused my grades to fall and all of that. And like I just like responded to everything in anger. I like wouldn't like try to learn and stuff. I just be like, I hate school and all of that. So my parents would punish me, but my parents, especially my mom, they'd also work with me. They'd help me to understand the things I didn't understand, even though I really didn't ask them to. My mom would really help me, would try hard to teach me on math, and she still does. And the results of that are really showing. I got a really good grade on my math exam, which is something I really didn't expect. And so I was very self-centered, I think, and my priorities were just very messed up, and I kind of forgot about God, I think. but and like I really just like if I had any ability to focus, then I just tore that to shreds then. But I think that even that experience, even though I made lots of mistakes, that kind of has helped me to mature and become closer to my parents and to God. And I want to continue in this way, in this on this path. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well. Again, I want to say that we are going to be back tomorrow. I want to say to everyone that we are going to be back tomorrow. And I'm going to go through all your questions, of course, tonight. I'm going to get all of them together. I'm going to get them together. So any one of them that we've not answered, we'll try to answer them tomorrow. So you might want to invite your friends tomorrow, or you want to send this video to other people. You might want to send this video to other people and invite them to come for tomorrow night. But tomorrow morning, I will be here again. But before we go, I think I will just ask one more question. A lot of people here are asking about Africa. Since your parents want to go, or your dad want to go to Africa, do you ever feel like going back there with them, or would you like to go with them, or you've not thought about it, or what are you thinking about it?
Well, for me, I've already started my path for my own future, so I'm not like, it's not as if I'm living in the same house as my parents right now. So I wouldn't be, if my dad was to leave to Nigeria tomorrow, I wouldn't be living in Nigeria. I'd still be where I am in my university.
Okay.
I'd still be where I am in my university. But as I mentioned earlier, that I don't have the same connection to Nigeria as my parents do, where I haven't lived there for long, only for a year. I've only visited a couple of times. So I don't really have many ties with Nigeria, that it seems more like a place to visit than a place to live. So I don't know about if I move there. I don't know. My future is open-ended, so I can't say right now that I'll never go to Nigeria. But I'm sure that if my parents do live there, that I'll definitely be visiting. But I don't know if I'm gonna live there. That's up to God to decide.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in my junior year, only have 1.5 years to go to finish school. So I'd probably choose to finish school here and then I'd go to university. And like Paris said, I think I'd want to stay and finish school here because I've only lived in Nigeria for a year and I only have a grandparents and my parents' families there. And I don't have that much of a connection, the same connection that my parents have to Nigeria. But I'd love to visit a lot of times, as much as I can, after I finish school and I get into a university.
Okay.
I would like, for the time being, to stay here. Like, I'd like to finish high school here, now that I've started it here. And when I go to university, I'll probably go to aim for a good university abroad, but probably not in Nigeria. So like, and I don't think I'll be going to Nigeria to live anytime soon. But like, I'd still like to go and visit it later in my life, and maybe when I grow up, I'll have a profession that will take me to Nigeria too, because I know that I should probably do something else besides being a writer, because that isn't a stable income, and I'm hoping that it will be something that I can help a lot of people with, and that I can be a globetrotter with. So like, if that happens, then I'd really like to visit Nigeria and do all that I can for Nigeria, because I think I hold Nigeria in high regards, and I think that it's a lot greater and has a lot more potential than lots of people think that it does, and I think that, and I really sympathize with the people there because like they've had a harsh history in general, and even now they have to deal with terrorism and corruption in the government. So I just would like to help them any way that I can.
Okay. Would you like me to some of the comments, or you will read them yourselves? I think you have to read them yourselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to read them yourself so that you know what people are thinking, and so that when you come tomorrow, you will know how to get yourself better equipped. And I think most people, they like Pearl, I think because she is talking more than everybody else.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you are outgoing, you are sharing your...
I love you too because
I was not showing you when you said. What did you say?
I love you too because I love people in general, and the Bible says to love everyone. So I love you, everyone. So I love you guys too.
Yes. Okay. What do you tell them as we go back? I will say bye-bye today.
Odabo.
Odabo. Well, that's the only the Nigerians there.
Yeah, good night. I hope we've
No,
been able-
let the Pearl finish first.
Find a goal or something you're going to center your life around. Hopefully God, because everything that is mortal will disappoint. And just strive towards it. Thank you very much for listening to our program and for listening to my thoughts today. And please have a good evening or morning or day wherever you might be watching from. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, and we just thank you greatly that you've been able to listen to us. We hope that we provided you with both some good entertainment and some useful wisdom. We hope that our lives will be able to be emulated, but not just emulated, but even taken better to greater heights. And we just hope that we've been able to help you and influence you at least a little way. So hope you have a good rest of the day and have a good one.
I hope we have been of service to you and answered some of your questions. Stay tuned for tomorrow. We'll answer more of your questions. And thank you for watching.
Share this video with your friends.
Is that it?
Share this video with your friends.
All right, so I could let them go? Okay, all right. Well, hello everyone. I hope it was a good experiment. I hope it was a nice experiment. I hope it was it was a good thing for you to hear them and to share this experience with them and to get to know my children more officially. I'm sure I actually have a video. With every one of them. So if you had started watching me back in May, and May and April or May or June, there were some videos that I did with Pro, Zoe, and Perez. So you could, if you want to hear any one of them more, go to the old videos in the YouTube or Facebook. You'll be able to see the reviews that I did with Perez and with Zoe and with Pearl. So you can hear them more, but no problem. Tomorrow is close. We'll be back tomorrow to share more, of our experience. I will take my time and get all your questions together, and you too could get all your questions together. So in case you want to, you might remember some questions that you want to ask. So think about them tonight. So you have a whole day tomorrow to get your thoughts together. Just like Esther Kuganja did, she got 7 questions together. So it means she thought about it. So she prepared her questions. So it would be good if you could prepare your questions as well and get them ready so that when we start tomorrow, you could just ask them and the kids will be able to answer all those questions. All right. Thank you so very much for your time. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. Go ahead and share the link and the video. God bless. Bye.